lies beneath the gigantic temple of Zeus in Lebanon. One of the greatest landscapes of power of the ancient world. For thousands of years, its secrets have been shrouded in darkness or bathed in an artificial light by those who would offer us a simplistic solution to its mysteries. You can see the columns of the Temple of Zeus, the largest temple in that the Romans ever built, one of the wonders of the ancient world. To this remote area, in the Mecca Valley of present-day Lebanon, Roman emperors traveled 1,500 miles to make offerings to their gods and receive oracles about the fate of their empire. So they went there also to get their fortunes told by the oracles there. Now remember, the Delphi oracle, the most famous one, was Pythia. Now curiously, it seems that no Roman emperor ever claimed credit for the Baalbek temple complex or for building its massive foundations. Similarly, we find no evidence of Roman construction among the local population. Instead, what we find are myths that suggest that Baalbek was built by superhuman forces at a time long before human civilization began. This temple of Zeus was dedicated to Zeus, the Heliopolis, and was built over the temple of Baal Hadad. 6 Corinthian columns remain standing out of the 19 in the eastern peristyle, and another 8 of these were dismantled by the Byzantines on orders from Justinian to decorate the Church of Holy Wisdom in today's Istanbul, which used to be called Constantinople. Istanbul means Istimboli in Greek, meaning in the city. Now there were 54 columns in the temple, and the temple was 50 meters high, 90 meters long, 20 meters high, 50 meters wide. The city remained under Greek rule until 64 BC, when the Romans conquered it, and in 15 BC, Octavian Augustus converted it into a Roman veteran colony, renamed it the Colonia Julia Augusta Felix Heliopolitana. And during this period, the city was adorned with beautiful sculptures and magnificent buildings, while those built by the Ptolemies were rebuilt and repaired. The strange foundation. Modern studies have shown that the foundation of the temple is much older than the Temple of Zeus rebuilt by the Romans, much older even than the Hellenistic era. These are gigantic monoliths weighing from 400 to 800 tons each, and it's likely that they were there even before the reconstruction of the Temple of Baal. No archaeologist has been able to explain how they were transported there. One only has to consider that the weight of the stones of Stonehenge is 40 tons each, while these were at least 10 times heavier. Nearby is the ancient quarry used by the monument's builders. There is the Stone of the South, the largest worked monolith on Earth, weighing 1,242 tons. It's even heavier than the pregnant stone, which weighs about 1,000 tons. Both giant stones were intended for the construction of the monument, but for some reason never reached their destinations. The Arabic and the Jewish sources. The Arabs believe that Baalbek once belonged to the legendary Nimrod, great-grandson of Noah, who ruled this region of Lebanon. And according to the Arabic manuscript, Nimrod sent giants to rebuild Baalbek after the flood. Another legend says that Nimrod rebelled against Jehovah and built the Tower of Babel here in order to ascend to heaven and attack his god. According to a variation of this myth, Nimrod reached the top of the tower but found himself as far from his goal, heaven that is, as when he started. When the tower collapsed, Nimrod attempted to ascend back to the heavens in a chariot drawn by 4 powerful birds, but the chariot, after wandering for a long time in space, finally crashed on Mount Hermon, where Nimrod was consequently killed. And earlier in this story, Nimrod had been visited by Abraham, who had come as a messenger from God to warn Nimrod of the punishment for his sins. But Nimrod, enraged by these threats, had Abraham thrown into a fiery furnace from which the latter somehow emerged unharmed. The local Muslims believe that it was beyond the ability of humans to move the enormous stones of Baalbek. Instead of giants, however, they created this task of demons or jinn. Muslim tradition says that Baalbek was once the home of Abraham and later of Solomon. It also suggests that the prophet Elijah ascended to heaven from Baalbek on a horse of fire. Other legends have linked Baalbek as a biblical figure of Cain, the son of Adam, claiming that he built it as a refuge after being cursed by his God. And according to Estefan Daweli, the Maronite patriarch of Lebanon, tradition says that the fortress of Baalbek is the oldest building in the world. Cain, the son of Adam, built it in the year 133 after creation, during a delirious madness. He named it after his son Enoch and inhabited it with the giants who were punished for their wickedness by the flood. Modern theories of Baalbek. Few modern writers have dared to tackle the Baalbek enigma, perhaps because Lebanon was off limits to tourists during the restless decades at the end of the second millennium. One writer who seems to be interested in is Andrew Collins, whose article suggests the possibility that Baalbek was an astronomical observatory of some kind. The best known alternative theory, however, is that of ancient astronauts by author Zecharia Sitchin, who claims that Baalbek was a space center built by a race of visiting gods called the Anunnaki as a launch center for their space rockets. One aspect of Sitchin's theory that's puzzling is the connection between Baalbek, Heliopolis, the city of the sun, and the ancient myth of the sun god who used Baalbek to park his chariot. To close with an amusing anecdote, the award of the most inventive Baalbek theory must arguably go to the English traveler David Urquhart, who suggested that the builders of Baalbek had used mastodons, huge extinct elephant-like mammals, as mobile cranes to help move the stones. Now, why did successive Roman empires travel thousands of miles to Baalbek to receive oracles from there? Why did they build the largest of all temples so far from Rome? What motivated them to send the red granite columns from so far away from Aswan in Egypt to the port of Tripoli, and from there to Baalbek via the city of Homs, a detour that, in order to avoid the mountains, required a journey of 200 kilometers? This was certainly an unsuitable location to erect the largest Roman temple in the world, so why should it have happened here, in the Bekaa Valley of all places? If we can answer this question, we may be able to solve the mystery of Baalbek. As one Baalbek scholar has commented, however, it is nowhere clearly stated to what cause the religious importance of the city is attributed. Ultimately, one suspects that the answer to Baalbek's sanctity lies in a decoding of its ancient religion, for it is religion that has been the guiding force in Baalbek since time immemorial. The sanctity of Baalbek in Roman times has already been mentioned, and one's attention is inevitably drawn to the triad of gods worshipped here: Aphrodite, Dionysus, and the almighty Zeus. The latter embodies all the symbolism of the archetypal storm god. The 5th century writer Macrobius describes the state of Zeus as follows: the statue of the god is made of gold, representing a beardless person who holds in his right hand a whip like a charioteer, and his left hand the thunderbolt with ears of wheat, the lightning rod of Zeus. What was the meaning of this storm god with the thunderbolt? Well, remember, it was a copy of this. It lies in one of the monasteries in the Himalayan mountains, a Buddhist monastery, a copy of which was given there supposedly by Alexander the Great's generals. This is what was given to Alexander the Great when he went into the Taklamakan desert of China with his 30,000 warriors, 10,000 which died, and he went there to receive this very advanced technological weapon to use it to conquer the areas that he went to. He was supposed to have been given this by an extraterrestrial Atlantean from Hyperborea, who would have landed there with his spacecraft. Now, furthermore, it should be noted that the Roman gods are only part of the answer to the sanctity of Baalbek, for the city was actually named in honor of Baal, the Canaanite storm god and palmist, and the myths of the god Baal provide numerous fascinating parallels with the gods of ancient Mesopotamian cults of planetary explosion. And indeed, my private research as a writer suggests that Canaanite and Phoenician religion could itself be described as a cult of the explosion of planets. Inevitably then, we must ask whether the significance of Baalbek arose from a celestial event, perhaps the impact of a meteorite or comet during pre-literature times. Could a meteorite be the key to the significance of Baalbek, the northern Heliopolis, just as a meteorite called the Ben stone was the key to the significance of Anu, the southern Heliopolis in ancient Egypt? And what about those giant stones in the Trilithon? Were they constructed intentionally, perhaps to evoke the ideas of meteorites, the giant seeds of life embedded in the foundation or womb of Mother Earth? Or were they simply the remains of an incomplete defensive wall? We may never know the answer to that question, or the question of how the stones of the Trilithon moved. The problem is that everyone sees in Baalbek what they want to see based on their own prejudices and theories. Perhaps it will always be that way. A final thought to close. If the mysterious stone of Baalbek prompted us to exercise our minds, then perhaps the ancient builders partially achieved their goals. But to pass as beginners the test of the Trilith, what is necessary for us is to do more than just explore our minds, exercise our minds. It's necessary first to challenge everything that we've been taught about the meaning and origin of religion. And this is by Alfronotok, Blogspot. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.